I once met a woman named Elaine, 73 years old, who told me something that stopped me in my tracks. She said, "I thought once I retired, I'd finally have time to rest, but now I feel more tired than ever." I asked her why, and she said, "Because I'm still doing everything for everyone else. Babysitting the grandkids 5 days a week, cooking for her daughter's family, hosting every holiday, every birthday, every Sunday dinner, always smiling, always saying yes." And yet, she felt invisible, exhausted, and quietly resentful. She didn't even know why she cried sometimes, until it hit her. She was running on guilt. That's the thing about guilt. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And when you're older, after 60, 65, 70, you start noticing how many of your decisions are quietly shaped by that whisper. Not by what you truly want, but by what you think you should do, what others expect, what you'd feel bad saying no to. So let me ask you something gently, from one human to another. Have you ever agreed to something just because you didn't want to disappoint someone? Have you ever said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, just to avoid feeling guilty? If you're nodding your head right now, please know you're not alone. So many older adults carry invisible guilt around like a heavy coat. And today, we're going to talk about the 5 guilt traps that are silently draining the joy and peace out of retirement. Not because you're weak, but because you care. Because you've spent your whole life giving. But now is the time to give something back to yourself. And to do that, you've got to escape these guilt traps, one by one. Let's begin with the first one. And this might hit close to home for many of you. It's feeling guilty for not babysitting your grandchildren 24/7. Now listen, there is nothing more precious than being a grandparent. That little smile, those small hands wrapping around your fingers, it melts your heart. But here's what happens, often without you realizing it. What starts as an occasional favor becomes a full-time job. Can you watch the baby this Friday turns into, can you take her Monday through Friday while I work? And because you love them, you say yes. Again and again. But slowly, your time disappears. Your mornings, your rest, your hobbies gone. You stop going for your walks. You skip that book you were excited to read. You eat meals standing up in between snacks and diapers. And before you know it, you're not just a grandparent, you're parenting again. But this time, with less energy, more aches in your back, and a body that just doesn't recover like it used to. And yet, you feel guilty for wanting a break, for saying no, for needing time to yourself. Because somewhere deep inside, you've been conditioned to believe that saying no means you don't love your family. Let me say something clearly. That is not true. Loving your grandchildren does not mean you must exhaust yourself to prove it. It's okay to say, I need this afternoon to rest. It's okay to say, I'll babysit once a week, but I can't do it every day. Saying no to constant demands does not mean you're selfish. It means you're human. You know what happens when you keep saying yes while your body is quietly pleading for rest? Resentment builds, and guilt masks it. You might find yourself snapping at people, feeling drained, or even experiencing health issues, all while smiling through it. That's not peace. That's survival. And I want more for you than that. Let me tell you about Mr. Paul. He's 68, retired just last year. He was so excited to finally start painting again, something he hadn't done since he was 30. But just a few weeks after retiring, his daughter asked if he could help out with the kids while she worked from home. He agreed, of course. But that 1 month turned into 7. He stopped painting. His sleep got worse. His blood pressure went up. And still, he said nothing. Why? Because he didn't want to make her feel guilty. So he carried the guilt himself. Eventually, he ended up in the hospital after fainting from exhaustion. Only then did his family realize how much he'd been pushing himself. Only then did he finally speak up and say, I love my grandkids more than anything, but I can't do this every day. It shouldn't take a crisis for you to reclaim your time. Let me tell you something that may sound strange at first. When you take care of yourself, you teach your children to do the same. When you set boundaries, you model self-respect. And when you say no with love, you actually deepen trust, not break it. Because here's what's true. Your family will survive if you don't babysit every single day. But your health, your peace, your dreams, They might not. You've already raised your children. You've given years, decades, of your life to parenting. Now, you deserve to enjoy your golden years. Not out of guilt, not out of pressure, but with intention, with freedom, with peace. So if you've been feeling that tug of war between love and guilt, just know this. You can love fully and still say no. You can adore your grandchildren and still choose to rest. You can be a wonderful parent and grandparent and still protect your energy. And the truth is, the people who love you the most, they'll understand, or they'll learn to. But either way, you must be the one to draw the line, because no one else can draw it for you. That's the first guilt trap, and it's one that's all too common. But if you've ever felt it, take heart. You're not alone. And more importantly, you can free yourself from it. Now let's talk about another quiet guilt that so many older adults live with, often without ever saying a word out loud. And that's feeling guilty for spending money on yourself instead of saving for the kids. This one runs deep, because for many of us, we've spent our whole lives providing food, clothes, school, weddings, support through tough times. And now, even after retirement, that old habit whispers, you need to leave something behind. Don't be selfish. Think of your children. It sounds noble. It feels responsible. But slowly, it begins to hollow out your own experience of retirement. I've spoken to so many seniors who say things like, I really wanted to take a cruise, but I should save that money for my daughter. Or, I saw a recliner that would help my back, but it's too expensive. I don't want to use the kids' inheritance. And you know what happens? Years go by. Dreams are delayed. Joy is postponed. And in the end, that money often gets used for things you never would have chosen anyway. Let me tell you about Mrs. Lorna, 70 years old. She had always wanted to visit Ireland. Her grandparents were from there. And she dreamed of seeing the green hills and old churches in person. But every time she saved up for the trip, something stopped her. I should be saving this for my son's future, she'd say. What if he needs help with the house? Or the kids' school fees? 10 years passed. Her health declined. Her knees weren't what they used to be. She couldn't walk long distances anymore. And one day she said to me, I should have gone when I had the chance. But I felt like I had to keep giving even after I had nothing left. Here's the truth, and I want to say it gently but clearly. You don't owe anyone your sacrifice anymore. You've earned the right to enjoy what you built. Retirement is not just the end of work. It's the beginning of life on your own terms. Of course, it's natural to want to leave something behind for your children, but not at the cost of your well-being, not at the expense of your dreams. Because what your children really need isn't more money. It's a parent who's healthy, happy, and fulfilled. A parent who lived their life fully, not fearfully. So if you've been skipping small joys, new clothes, fresh flowers, a weekend away, a nice dinner, just to squirrel away more savings for your children, pause. Ask yourself, what do I want? What makes me feel alive? Because you matter, too. Your joy doesn't have to be justified, and your happiness is not a waste of money. And now, let's move to the third guilt trap, a much quieter one, but just as heavy. It's feeling guilty when you say no to family gatherings. Now this might surprise you. Most people assume that being invited to family events is a good thing. And it is. But here's where guilt slips in. What happens when you're tired? When your body hurts? When you just want a quiet day at home, but you feel obligated to show up? I hear this all the time. If I don't go, they'll say I'm distant. Or, I'm expected to be there, it's just what we do. Even when you're not feeling well, even when you'd rather rest, you say yes. Because saying no feels cold. It feels like letting someone down. Let me tell you about George, 74. He loves his family deeply, but his joints ache in the cold, and big gatherings exhaust him. One Thanksgiving, he was really looking forward to staying home with his wife, making something simple, and enjoying a quiet day. But when his daughter called, saying, everyone will be disappointed if you're not there, he said yes. He spent 5 hours on the road, sat in a noisy, crowded house, forced to smile through the whole meal, and ended the night feeling miserable. Not because he didn't love his family, but because he ignored what his body and heart needed. He told me later, I don't think they even noticed I was uncomfortable. And that's the hard part. Sometimes we carry guilt that no one else expects us to carry. Sometimes we say yes to things because we don't want to cause a stir, but no one would have judged us if we simply said, "Not this time." You see, saying no to a gathering doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're honoring your needs. You can still be a loving parent, a supportive grandparent, and a respectful elder, even when you decline an invitation. Love isn't measured by how often you show up. It's measured by the kindness and honesty you bring when you do. And here's something to consider. When you attend a gathering because you want to, not because you feel forced, you're more present. You're more joyful. And that energy is something your family will feel. So don't wait for permission to rest. Don't explain yourself over and over. You can simply say, "I won't make it this time, but I'm sending my love." And let that be enough. Because it is enough. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't have to carry guilt just for choosing peace. And you certainly don't have to exhaust yourself for the sake of tradition. Your time is sacred. Your body deserves rest. And your no is not a rejection. It's a choice to protect your energy. These small boundaries, saying no to gatherings when you need rest, spending money on yourself, choosing when and how you show up, these are not selfish acts. These are self-respecting acts. And they are long overdue for many older adults. We've covered 3 of the most common guilt traps so far. And if you've recognized yourself in any of them, I hope you're beginning to feel lighter already. Because awareness is the first step to freedom. So let me continue with the 4th guilt trap. And this one is so deeply rooted, so quiet, that many older adults don't even realize they're caught in it. It's feeling guilty for resting or enjoying retirement instead of helping someone else. Now think about it. For decades, maybe your whole adult life, you were always helping someone. Helping your kids with school. Helping your spouse manage the household. Helping coworkers, neighbors, extended family. You were the one people turned to. The one who always stepped up. And somewhere along the line, you may have absorbed the idea that your value is tied to how useful you are. That rest is something to be earned. And even then, only in small doses. So when retirement finally arrives, and you finally have time to breathe, something feels off. Like you're being lazy. Like you should be doing something. You might even hear that little voice in your head saying, "Don't just sit there. You could be helping with the grandkids. You could run errands for your daughter. You could volunteer. You could cook for the family. You could," and on it goes. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you gave yourself permission to just be? To rest without explaining it? To enjoy a slow morning, a quiet afternoon, a guilt-free evening without trying to earn it? Because here's the truth. Rest is not something you have to deserve. It is your right, especially now. I remember talking to a woman named Rosa, 69 years old. She had retired from teaching just the year before, and she said something that stayed with me. "I've never felt more uncomfortable doing nothing," she told me. "Even when I sit with a cup of tea and read a book, I feel this weight like I should be doing laundry or calling someone to check on them." And that's the invisible chain. Even in peace, we feel pressure. She went on to say, "My daughter thinks it's sweet that I come over every weekend to help clean. But the truth is, I go even when I don't want to. Because if I don't, I feel useless." That word, useless, is painful. And it's a lie. You are not defined by how much you help others. You are not selfish for enjoying your time. You are not wrong for choosing joy over obligation. The problem is, we've been conditioned to believe that doing is better than being. That unless we're helping, we're wasting time. But ask yourself, who told you that? And more importantly, are they still the voice you want to follow? Rest is not lazy. Pleasure is not wasteful. In fact, choosing to enjoy retirement after a lifetime of sacrifice is one of the most radical and healthy decisions you can make. Because when you rest, your body heals. When you take time for yourself, your mind resets. When you do what brings you joy, your spirit lifts. And here's something powerful to remember. You've already helped so many people. You've already shown up. You've already poured your energy, your time, your love into others. Now it's your turn. Rosa told me, "I started painting again. just for fun. And it feels like I've come back to life. That's what joy looks like when you stop carrying guilt. Not running around to stay useful, but being still enough to rediscover yourself. So if you've been feeling guilty for not constantly doing something helpful, stop. You've done enough. You've earned your peace. Let it in. And now, let's move into the final guilt trap. This one is a little more personal, and perhaps the most dangerous of them all. It's feeling guilty for putting your own health or peace first. This is the kind of guilt that sneaks in when you cancel a plan to rest, or when you say, I need to go to my own doctor's appointment before I can help you with yours. It's the guilt that creeps in when you do something for your own well-being, and someone else makes a comment, subtle or not, about how it's inconvenient for them. Let me give you a real story. I met a man named Mr. Lewis, 72 years old. He had always been the rock of his family, fixing things, driving his grandkids around, helping his adult children with paperwork, housework, bills, you name it. But one winter, he started feeling sharp chest pains and constant fatigue. He told his daughter he wanted to take a break for a few weeks just to focus on his health. Her response? You're not that old, Dad. We still need you. And what did Lewis do? He ignored the pain. He kept helping. He kept showing up. A few weeks later, he had a mild heart attack. That's what guilt can do. It makes you ignore the signals your body is sending. It convinces you that prioritizing your own health is a betrayal of your role as a parent or grandparent or caregiver. It tells you that your peace can wait, that others come first. But here's the hard truth. If you don't put your health first now, someone else might have to, after it's too late. You are not selfish for choosing rest. You are not weak for needing time alone. You are not difficult for saying, I can't do that today. I need to take care of myself. In fact, you are brave. Because choosing yourself, especially after a lifetime of choosing others, is not easy. It takes courage to break old habits. It takes strength to say, my health matters. It takes wisdom to say, my peace matters. So the next time someone asks you for a favor and you're not feeling up to it, you don't have to explain every detail. You don't have to apologize. You can simply say, not today. I'm taking care of myself. And that's enough. Let me leave you with this thought before we move on to wrap up everything. If your kindness is always expected, it's no longer kindness. It's pressure. But when you care for others after you've cared for yourself, that's real love. In our final part, we're going to bring all these guilt traps together and talk about how to free yourself from them with grace, strength, and compassion. Because peace at this age isn't a luxury. It's your birthright. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Maybe you listened to all 5 of those guilt traps and found yourself nodding along, feeling seen. But then you sighed and thought, yes, that's true, but it's not that easy. And you're right. It's not easy. Because guilt isn't just a feeling, it's a habit. A quiet, lifelong reflex. For many people over 60, guilt has been shaping your choices for so long that it almost feels like part of your identity. It sneaks into your language. It slips into your decisions. And sometimes you don't even notice it until much later, when you're lying awake at night wondering why you feel so tired, or why you feel invisible. But the good news is this, just like any habit, guilt can be unlearned. Not overnight, not in a dramatic moment, but gently, slowly, one decision at a time. You see, we weren't born feeling guilty. That came from somewhere. For most of us, guilt was taught. Maybe not in words, but in patterns, in expectations, in comments like don't be selfish, or don't let the family down, or good mothers always sacrifice. Maybe it was the way your parents lived, never resting, always working, giving until they were empty. Maybe it was the belief that love means never saying no. So it's no wonder that now, when you finally have a chance to slow down, guilt creeps in and says, are you sure it's okay to rest? But here's the truth. You're not obligated to live the rest of your life by the rules that hurt you. You get to choose new ones. And that starts with awareness. The next time you feel that sinking guilt in your chest, pause. Don't push it away. Don't scold yourself. Just notice it. Ask yourself gently, where is this guilt coming from? Is it about love or fear? You might be surprised how often guilt is fear in disguise. Fear of disappointing someone, fear of being judged, fear of being left out, fear of losing connection. And those are real fears. We're not here to pretend they're not. But we are here to say, you don't have to let them control your life anymore. Here's something else I want you to know, something no one says enough. You can be a good parent, a good friend, a good person, and still put yourself first. Not all the time, not selfishly, but honestly, quietly, respectfully. You're not letting people down when you honor your own needs. You're showing them what self-respect looks like. And that is something worth modeling, especially for your children and grandchildren. Because let's be honest, what do we want for our children? We want them to grow up strong, self-aware, healthy, and at peace, right? But how will they learn that if all they've ever seen is us running ourselves into the ground, always saying yes, never resting, never speaking up? When you set a boundary, you're not rejecting people, you're teaching them how to love you in a way that doesn't hurt you. Let me share something with you. A gentleman named Arthur, 75, wrote to me after hearing a talk about guilt traps. He said, "For years, I thought saying yes to everything made me a great dad. But all it really did was make me exhausted and quietly resentful. I didn't realize that my grown kids had no idea how tired I was, because I never told them." One day, Arthur said no. His daughter asked him to help her move apartments. Normally, he would have said yes without hesitation. But this time he paused. He said, "I love you, but my back has been acting up, and I need to rest. I can't lift boxes anymore. I hope you understand." You know what she said? "Of course, Dad. I had no idea you were still doing this stuff while in pain. Please take it easy." Arthur told me that small moment changed everything. Because for the first time in years, he felt like he was being honest. Not pretending, not pushing through, just being himself. That's the power of one small boundary. You don't need to swing the door shut. You don't have to stop giving or helping entirely. But you can begin choosing how much, when, and why. Not because you owe anyone, but because you want to. That's the difference between love and guilt. Love comes with freedom. Guilt comes with pressure. And if you're feeling unsure where to begin, start simple. Maybe it's letting the phone ring and calling back later. Maybe it's choosing not to volunteer for that family event this time. Maybe it's going to the doctor for yourself first, before running errands for someone else. Maybe it's spending a bit of money on something you've always wanted, without explaining it to anyone. These aren't grand gestures, but they are powerful signals to yourself and to the world that your life matters too. And here's another truth. The people who truly love you, who value you, who care about your health and happiness, they will not abandon you when you say no. If anything, they'll come to understand you more. And the ones who don't? Well, maybe it's time they learn how to meet you where you are, instead of always asking you to stretch. You've bent over backwards for others for years. Isn't it time you stood up straight for yourself? Let me ask you a question now, not a big one. Just something to reflect on. What would your life feel like if guilt wasn't in the driver's seat? What if your days were guided by peace, not pressure? What if your calendar had more "I want to" and less "I have to"? What if your relationships were based on mutual respect, instead of silent resentment? That life is possible. And it doesn't start with guilt. It starts with grace. Give yourself the grace to be tired. Give yourself the grace to choose rest. Give yourself the grace to change, slowly, gently, and without apology. You've spent a lifetime caring for others. That doesn't have to stop. But now, let yourself be part of that care. Let yourself be included in the circle of compassion you've drawn around everyone else. Because here's the final truth I'll leave you with. You are worthy of peace, not when everyone else is taken care of, not when the guilt is gone, not someday, but now, right now. So I'd love to hear from you. Which of these guilt traps felt most familiar to you? Was it always saying yes to your children? Was it putting your health on hold? Was it the constant pressure to stay useful? Whatever it was, I want you to know you're not alone. There are so many others who've lived in that same silence. And when we start to speak it out loud, we start to set ourselves free. If this message helped you feel seen, even just a little, drop a comment below. Tell us what you're ready to say no to, or what peace looks like for you. Because your story might be the light someone else needs to take their first step. And if no one has told you this today, let me be the one to say it. You have nothing left to prove. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to choose joy. You are allowed to live in peace.